Hey guys, you're listening to Metal Matters, a weekly Gimme Radio podcast. I'm your host, Mike Hill. If you like metal, punk, hardcore, or anything extreme, you've come to the right place. So subscribe and never miss out. Randy and I get together to talk about Poison Idea's classic record, Feel the Darkness. I have to admit that I was a little bit of a Johnny-come-lately with this band. I didn't know about them at all during the 80s when a bunch of their records came out. It wasn't until 1990 when this record came out that they jumped into my consciousness. And it was mainly the title, Feel the Darkness. The cover, intense, nihilistic. It seemed like a new type of punk rock music for me to check out. And once I got into the record from the opening track, Plastic Bomb, I knew I was onto something. The lyrics were about desolation, broken dreams, and the American nightmare. And I knew that I found a new band for me to totally absorb myself with. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a star rating on iTunes, share it with your friends. We're looking to grow this thing and blow it up, so any help from you guys is much appreciated. If you want to get at me, you can hit me up on Facebook, Michael Hill. On Instagram, Michael_DC_Hill. Poison Idea from Portland, Oregon. They've been around since 1980. And they were a band that initially I didn't really like them a whole lot when I first heard them, to be honest with you. But it wasn't until I heard this record, Feel the Darkness, that the true impact of the band actually grabbed me.
I was a latecomer to Poison Idea.
Yeah.
They weren't a band that I loved growing up, getting into punk and hardcore and all that stuff. I discovered them later. When this record came out, I wasn't even a fan of it.
This record is the one record that people were like, you got to check this band out, and that's what really brought me into the fold. So, we're talking about Feel the Darkness, the third LP by Poison Idea, released in 1990. Initially on Vinyl Solutions and American Leather. American Leather being their own label.
Yeah.
The record clocks in at 39 minutes, 23 seconds. So it's definitely part of that old school vinyl side A, side B format.
Yes.
Not like records that come out these days that are like 100 minutes long or whatever, triple LP type stuff. Track listing opens with Plastic Bomb. We have Deep Sleep, The Badge, Just to Get Away, Gone for Good, Death of an Idiot Blues, Taken by Surprise, Allen's on Fire, Welcome to Krell, Nation of Finks, Backstab Gospel, Painkiller, Feel the Darkness, and Discontent. The personnel on this record is Jerry A. on vocals, Mondo guitar and piano.
Yes.
Pig Champion guitar, V. Slayer Hippie on drums, and Myrtle Tickner on bass.
Now, that just sounds like a cast of characters.
It's like,
right?
The names are fucking amazing in this band, man. I always thought Pig Champion was the greatest name
Fuck
ever.
yeah.
Recorded at Sound Impressions, Milwaukee, Oregon. Engineered by Bob Stark and Tony Lash. Bob Stark sounds like a fake name, doesn't it?
Milwaukee, Oregon sounds like a fake place.
But Bob Stark, that sounds like a guy like Tony Stark or some shit, from like a comic book or whatever.
What's the guy, the name of the alleged bass player who's Greg Ginn? What's the fake bass player name?
Oh, dude, you put me on the spot with that one. I'm going to tell you what it is.
God, I can't remember. What is fucking wrong with my head today?
I don't know. It's on My War, right?
Yeah, I have it right here. Is it easier for me to just look at the LP?
I use that name all the time, too, which is hysterical to me.
Dale Nixon.
That would be Dale Nixon. the fake bass player on My War.
Right.
That's actually Greg Ginn. So yeah, it sounds like a band filled with Dale Nixons. But I feel like this record for the band is kind of a departure because Poison Idea started off as like a raw punk band, but 1983's Pick Your King, 87 War All the Time. That kind of saw them going more in this kind of heavy rock sort of like that record sounded good. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it had like a different vibe than Pick Your King.
The second guitar player, I believe, was added, and guitar solos came with that. Correct?
Yeah, and it's it's like I think it's no surprise to people that the records I gravitate more towards have more of like a metal, like kind of rock like feel to them than like the raw punk sort of stuff, which I like. But in the case of Poison Idea, that's what really got the hooks in me is when I started hearing like guitar solos and kind of more metal type production, that kind of thing. And back in the 80s and the 90s, most people were like very critical of the metal influence on punk and hardcore.
Yeah, it was not as. I mean, I guess it was, but it wasn't in a lot of ways as prevalent as it is today. Like people don't even give that shit a second thought now.
No.
I mean, there's the whole crossover scene, obviously, which before this.
Yeah, and we covered that.
We did.
In
We did cover that.
Early episode of this podcast.
Right. I wouldn't go as far to say this still sounds like a punk record to me.
Oh, it's definitely not crossover.
No.
I'm not trying to frame it like that at all.
But production-wise, and there is guitar solos on this.
Yeah.
So it does have a metal feel, for ssure.
And one of the things I'm going to say about Poison Idea, and specifically this record, is that I feel like the whole genre of Japanese hardcore, like that was a Burning Spirit, that stuff that they have, like bands like Deathside and
Gauze.
I would say more like Deathside. Those bands exist because of Poison Idea.
I don't know the timeline on that. I mean, yeah, Poison Idea was around before Deathside, right?
Yeah. Before I step my fucking make an ass out of myself, double check that.
Is it all right to mention another podcast on
Yeah,
him?
man. Sure.
Because there's a good 2-part interview with Jerry A.
Oh, shit, dude. All right, we're going to have to redo that. Deathside, Wasted Dream, 1989.
Was it really?
Yeah.
See, I would... Oh, shit, all right. Who's the other band? Gizm?
Gizm. They're more like...
They're like a heavy metal band, almost.
All right, let's just fucking... Let me go back to this here. All right. Now, initially, I thought that a lot of those Burning Spirits bands in Japan, such as Deathside, owed a lot to this band. But it is possible that they might have discovered Poison Idea around the same time. But the Wasted Dream Deathside record came out in like 1988, which is 2 years before this record.
I don't know about the rest of the guys in Poison Idea, but I listened to a pretty in-depth interview recently with Jerry A. And those guys and him were very informed on Japanese hardcore.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think that it might have been the other way around?
I think so.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah, because like if you listen to early Deathside records or anything from their period, it's like there's these like long intros and guitar solos and that kind of song structure going on.
Right. Yeah, there's a great 2-part interview with Jerry A. It was like late last year on a podcast called "Turned Out a Punk," where he talks about going back and getting all those old Japanese records and old Swedish records. He was a record collector.
Yeah, I can see the Swedish influence, like Anti-Cymex and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that kind of like proto D-beat kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know a lot of D-beat kids like Poison Idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of kids, like the later era of those dudes.
Poison Idea, I feel in a lot of ways is like the punk rock version of Motorhead.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I know, but they covered a lot of Motorhead songs early on. But what I feel like, I don't mean it like that so much sonically, although you could draw a line there. It's like they're like the band that's okay for everyone to like. And
I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially when this record, I think, is one of those records, almost like Ace of Spades, but on a smaller level, you know?
Sure.
I remember riding around in the van with you last summer,
Yep.
and we put this record on, and
Oh, yeah.
the other guys are total metalheads.
Yeah, like,
They
metalheads, like, they don't listen to anything but metal.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And they were, like, knew this record and dug this record.
Yeah, it's like a universal. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
But going back to, like 1990, when this album came out, like, I'd heard about Poison Idea, and I thought the name, it was a cool name, you know. I heard some of the earlier stuff, and I was like, it's all right. It's pretty cool. Didn't really grab me. But when Feel the Darkness came out, it was the title that grabbed me.
See that.
You know, I was like, Feel the Darkness. And like around that time, I was feeling a lot of darkness.
It worked.
Yeah. And so, I picked it up and, got into it, and I thought it was pretty awesome. And I thought that, like, one of the things I liked about it was that, all right, let's talk about darkness, okay? Just in general.
Okay.
There's, if you're into black metal or, like satanic stuff, there's like Slayer, darkness, they talk about Satan, and the black metal talks about the abyss and like all this like, heavy duty, like, imagery.
Right.
But the darkness that Poison Idea touches on is a darkness that the everyman can understand. You know what I mean?
Totally, man.
It's
totally.
like the dark feelings you get when you can't pay your rent. The darkness of being addicted to drugs. The darkness of like not having any options in life. Like, that's kind of like that's like the vibe of the band, I think, in a lot of ways.
I agree. Same feeling I get when I listen to like My War.
Yeah.
That kind of darkness.
Exactly.
Right.
It's this sort of malaise of like the wandering like young man through the American desolation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the you against everybody kind of mentality.
And I think that at that particular juncture of my life, I was feeling a lot of those feelings, and when I found this record, it kind of like resonated with me. And then also just how kick-ass the songs were. Besides from all the subject matter, the lyrics, and just the overall tone and the title, like the songs were like rippers. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
they like
definitely
brought it away in a way that their earlier material, I think, didn't really bring it.
I'm just going to go ahead and say how I came to be a fan of this record.
Yeah, man, go for it.
Because I was not a fan of Poison Idea early on. I used to see the ads in Maximum Rock and Roll and see the records everywhere. I was aware of the band, but I was never really a fan until I heard a song called The Badge. But it was not Poison Idea.
Oh, shit. Okay.
It was Pantera.
That was in the Crow soundtrack,
The
right?
Crow soundtrack, who I'm not a fan of Pantera. But I was like, this song kind of kicks ass. Like, doesn't sound like a Pantera song. So I did a little research and found out it was Poison Idea. That's when I went back and bought Feel the Darkness. So I came to this way later. I mean, maybe it wasn't way later.
No, it's like in the
92?
90s. Yeah, it wasn't that much longer after the fact.
All right. Well, still, that's when I came to be a fan of this record and go back and rediscover kind of Poison Idea or discover Poison Idea.
1990 was an important year, though, for me, too. It's just like, I remember this record came out and also Remain Sedate by Rorschach came out.
Fuck yeah. Now that I loved.
And I think the 1-2 punch of those two albums for me, like kind of like, it was like a slap of reality. It was like, those two albums I needed these two records in that particular point in my life. I just got out of college, and it was like, I had a job and everything, but I was just kind of out of my element in a lot of ways, and discovering what life was all about, and seeing that some of the aspirations and dreams you might have had as a young man most likely will never be realized. And those two records, Remain Sedate and Feel the Darkness, were like, seeing reality for the first time and understanding that, you can't move back. You just have to keep going forward.
Right.
And that going forward, like, this kind of like uncertain, terrifying place to go, you know. And I think that this record kind of like touches on a lot of that sort of stuff. It's like you're kind of understanding that as hard as you think life was at that particular point, that it's going to be getting a lot harder in the coming years.
What a great thing to think, huh? Those are two dark records, man. Remain Sedate is a very dark record, too.
They're very different records, but
very
they both
different.
came out the same year. And, you know, also that was like the kind of year where, like, you know, I'd moved away from, I wasn't on the East Coast anymore in 1990. I was like out west, you know, out of my element.
Right.
And discovering like the differences between people and you know, just having new experiences in life, and these things were sort of the accompaniment to that, you know. And like, you know, I'd been coming out of college, I was kind of, you know, checking out different types of music, kind of maybe moved away from, you know, punk and hardcore, like slightly, you know, not too far away. But I felt like in 1990, I was kind of like, you know, maybe let's, you know, punk and hardcore really, there wasn't that, you know, the Black Flag had done it, ran its course, you know, they were gone, you know, the Rollins band was around, and they were doing something different, and the whole, like, hardcore punk world was sort of, like, receding, you know, moving away and beyond. But then when these two records came out, and, you know, we're talking about Feel the Darkness, when that came out, I was like, man, this is, like, brought me kind of back into the fold of listening to hardcore and punk rock music again.
Right.
You know? And also the fact that these guys are so fucking ugly, too.
Well, you were talking about 90 was a pivotal year, and, you know, there's a small age gap between us.
Yeah.
But, you know, by a couple of years, you know. And 93 was kind of the year for me when I started to feel the darkness of life.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like the possibilities become impossibilities and shit. So that's when I started to gravitate towards more like, you know, away from punk and hardcore into Neurosis and Buzz Oven and just darker, more hopeless kind of music. And also around the same time I discovered this record.
It's funny, I have this note written down here about the badge. Or, I'm sorry, not the badge. Just to Get Away. Ode to being penniless and 25 in the American dream. That's what I wrote about that.
That goes hand in hand with what you were saying.
Yeah. You know, it's funny how I was like, I knew I wrote something about, you know. But I think those two are, and Plastic Bomb, those three songs are like my favorites on the record. Plastic Bomb, The Badge, and Just to Get Away. And, Just to Get Away, just the lyrics of that song are funny, but also very poignant in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
It's funny. This is obviously we do these about records we both love. So I love every song on this record. But my three songs that I go to are Deep Sleep, Alan's on Fire, and the song Feel the Darkness, the title track.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
Yeah, I love the end of Deep Sleep. Like the last 10 seconds of that song is just fucking awesome, man. Love it.
The record, though, the beginning, Plastic Bomb, that's a pretty epic way to begin an album.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
You know, it's got this long-ass, like, piano
intro.
introduction. That's the thing that got me about this album, too. I was like, wow, this is like, you know, because I think I was still of the mindset that intros like that were like a metal kind of thing.
Right.
You know, like these long, like, piano, grandiose introductions were very, very metal to me.
Sure. Yeah.
And even the song Plastic Bomb, like that brutal like guitar thing going on in the beginning is kind of metal, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's definitely a metal feel to this record. Like I said, it's not crossover by any means.
No.
But it's definitely a metal feel. But, you know, I don't want this to get lost, what you said a few minutes ago about how ugly these guys were.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know, neither one of us are particularly handsome guys either, but like, you know.
Speak for yourself.
But yeah, it's like.
They're scary.
They're scary.
Right.
Yeah.
When you heard the music and then you put the face to the music, it made total sense. You know, some bands you hear the music and then you see the face and you're like, oh, that's weird, man. Like that guy, that singer looks like that. These guys are exactly what you would think they would look like.
Yeah.
When you hear the music.
You know what else?
Like
Another really good record by them is like that Blank Blackout Vacant record. Have you heard that one?
I have heard it. I'm not familiar with it though.
It came out a couple of years afterwards in '92, and I remember '92. It came out in '92, but I didn't get it until maybe a couple of years after that because I remember when I moved to Boston. So that was 1994, and there was the Tang record store in Harvard Square.
Yep.
The kids will have their say. And I remember, like, when I first moved to town, I took a little subway ride out there, and I bought that record, and I bought a red long sleeve Poison Idea T-shirt that had it didn't have the Feel the Darkness cover on it though. It had the one with Elvis on it, the Pick Your King. Pick Your King.
Yep.
Which was not what I wanted. I wanted the Feel the Darkness
right.
artwork, and it was red, which was not the color I wanted either. But I just wanted a fucking Poison Idea T-shirt. They only had red with the wrong record on it. But nonetheless, I ended up buying that, and I bought that Blank Vacant record, and it was good. Even more rock and roll than this album.
I got to revisit that. I've heard it, but it's been a long, long time.
Yeah, we really picked some good ones, man. I haven't anything to fucking say about this album either.
We're doing all right?
What?
How far in are we?
20 minutes.
What do we need? 40?
Yeah, we need like another 20 minutes or so. Let me pause this. Yeah, we got to figure out more stuff to talk about. What do you got in your notes?
I got the basic shit, dude.
Like what?
All the shit you already. Oh, I got the notes about like the reissue and the bonus tracks.
Oh, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me piss first. We'll hit that. Yeah, we need some stories.
I never seen them. Have you?
Nope. We can talk about that. How we both were fucking posers and we never. We can talk about the death of some of the members.
Oh, right.
Like I mentioned that they passed away in certain years, which I didn't note.
I didn't note that either. See, another interesting thing is we both have in our notes the last track is Discontent.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was originally the last track. Because on here it has Feel the Darkness as the last track, and I actually have it written down that Discontent was a bonus track.
Okay. Then you can correct me on that.
I'll say, hey, fuck up.
Yeah, do that, man. Totally. I don't mind that. Being wrong.
And then it has Discontent as part of the bonus tracks on here.
Well, we can say that there's different releases, and maybe use that as a reference, like read off that track listing.
Right.
And then, we can talk about that. So I think I got mine off of like Discogs or something like that. Look at these fucking guys.
Look at this fucking guy.
He's dead.
This fucking Matt's gonna look like that soon.
Dude, he's wearing pajama pants.
He's like, he shops at my store.
Who's alive in the band? Like who's in? Because there are.
I don't know. I know Pink Champion's dead. Is someone else is dead? Dude, I tried. This is another one. Like, I was able to find out more about this in Lurker at Chalice, but like I couldn't find a lot of information on Poison Idea, which sounds ridiculous, but I couldn't.
I mean, they're a pretty obscure band, really. I mean, in the big picture. American punk rock band. Let's see.
This reissue is cool.
All right, so here's some info here. They officially disbanded in 2017.
Yeah, the last record, the studio album, was on Southern Lord, I think, right?
Yeah. All right. So you can start off by correcting me here. That you might want to say, like, let me bring up, like, the fact that there's some different reissues or different versions of the album out there.
I'm looking at there's some covers on here. I'm trying to. It's a Jimmy Cliff cover. He's like a little reggae guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Covers. You know, Machine Head did Allen's on Fire as a cover, too.
Did they really?
Yeah.
That band's fucking gay.
Pantera, The Badge.
We Got the Beat.
There's bands. All right. There's other covers. Let's see. All right. So, let's see. Let me make some notes here. Well, we fucked up, man. We're like,
well, you know what's funny too? Now that we're talking about this, a lot of times we do this. We've seen the band,
yeah, definitely.
and there's always stories that stem from me and you going to these shows and seeing these bands.
I'm going to list some of the bands that have covered them. By the grace of God.
That's one of your favorite bands.
You know, Rob Fish is a friend of mine. And I remember, like, I went to go see them because Mike Scandato's band was opening. And I saw Rob Fish, not Rob Fish.
Rob Penning.
Rob Penning.
Yeah, I knew you, man.
Yeah. And he was like, he was happy to see me, but he was like, what are you doing here? I'm like, why? I can't come and see you fucking play.
We're totally gay. Like, why are you here? Like, our band's so gay. Why are you here? Was it Ryan in that band too? Patterson?
No, he was in Black Cross.
Oh, right.
He's like, what are you doing here? Machine Head.
What about? They brought this up on that other podcast I mentioned earlier, but like the kind of beef thing with Ian MacKaye.
See, I don't know anything about that.
I think it was didn't they do a record called "Record Collectors Are Pretentious Assholes"?
Well,
and there was the original cover had like a guy bent over, and the asshole was Ian MacKaye's face.
See, now that I don't know, man. Is that true?
I can make myself a little more useful here. this is just talking about the record. I guess they have a compilation LP called Poison Idea, Ian Mackay.
Well, write some notes about that. We're going to talk about it. 2018, Poison Idea announced that they were taking a hiatus to address some health issues and personal matters. Okay. Officially disbanded. What's that?
They asked Pig Champion, why did you use his name on the cover of the record? Pig Champion's response, because he's an asshole.
Oh, wow. See, these are good things. Oh, here we go. The group released the record Collectors Are Pretentious Assholes 12-inch that features
That's different.
Substantial vinyl collection.
That's a different thing.
Right.
So the EP is called Ian Mackay is the name of the EP.
Okay.
I got it confused. came out in 89, so that came out right before Feel the Darkness.
Wow. Pig Champion died in 2006. He was 47 in 2006.
Oh,
so
shit,
he would be
really?
like over 60 years old right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
No way that fucking guy's living to 60,
No.
obviously.
No, I mean, well, yeah. I just,
Jesus, I wonder what he weighed.
dude, I don't know. What a bunch of fucking losers, man. These guys are like, 2008, Portland police arrested Steve the Slayer hippie Hanford, 39, in connection with a string of pharmacy robberies in late summer. That's like Drugstore Cowboy or some shit.
Yeah. It makes sense.
That's funny, man. It's like it makes me feel better about my life. You know what I mean? Knowing these guys are out there. It's like they're like in their 40s, like robbing pharmacies and shit, and touring, going on like long 5-week tours and doing crimes and shit.
Shit you might have did when you were a teenager, maybe.
But I mean, as adult men, they're doing
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things, which is
Right.
like, all right, well,
Right.
you know,
Maybe my life doesn't suck as bad
it isn't
as...
as bad.
Pig Champion in particular was very fat. often having to play sitting down.
Oof. All right, so where do we want to get back into this?
Well, if you just want to start it up, and I'll be like, I'll say I can like
correct me on that. Yeah, that's cool.
Just,
No, man.
just to lead to a different.
Yeah. All right. I'm ready. I'm gonna kick it off here. What do you got there in your hands, Randy? I see you got a record in your hands.
I have the 2018 reissue of Feel the Darkness on TKO Records, which is pretty nice, pretty hefty package.
Is that 180 gram vinyl?
Sure. I think it's 400 gram. I don't know. It's sturdy. I noticed something, though, looking at this. Well, you mentioned earlier the track listing. The last track was the song Discontent. I believe the original version of this, the last track, is the title track, Feel the Darkness. I know this record has come out, I think, in many different forms over the years. And I think Discontent ended up being a bonus track on maybe the second pressing, something like that. I don't know the exact history. But this is a 2 LP version. And the second LP has a lot of alternative mixes, covers, and a few tracks that didn't make the record. And Discontent is on this second LP. So it makes me think it wasn't originally the last track.
Cool.
Some covers on here. Let's see. Lottie Miss Claudie, which I don't know who originally did that song. I know Creedence did that song.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think they were covering, I think it's an old blues song.
Yeah.
Like that. A song called Crack Smoking Freak.
Wow.
Don't know if that's a cover. Yeah, there's a different mix of Feel the Darkness. We Got the Beat.
Oh, the Go-Go's.
Go-Go's. Jailhouse Stomp, which I think is probably an original or a take on something else. But yeah, so it was interesting that I think Feel the Darkness was actually the original last track.
Let me take a look at this here.
Yeah, sure.
It's pretty cool. It's like the album cover is like, it's got this cool like foil skull rings, things like that.
Yeah, it's a really nice package and some really stunning imagery inside of how beautiful these guys actually were. In shape.
Wow.
Just good-looking guys.
I should try to pick this up at some point. Must be. I bet it's sold out at this point, right?
Nah, probably. It's the way it works these days.
Vinyl, the rare commodity of the collectible vinyl that comes out these days.
I was working at a record store in the fall, and it just happened to come in, and I was like, "Oh shit, I need to buy that." So I did.
That was probably a good move.
Yeah, because I haven't seen it much around.
I didn't even know it came out.
I didn't know it was coming out either until
it
showed up on the shelf one day. But yeah, we were talking about, these guys looked like they lived pretty hard earlier, and there's a lot of imagery in here and pictures of, them drinking hard, bleeding. It's fitting.
They don't make bands like Poison ID anymore, really.
No, they sure don't.
Or maybe they do, and I just don't know about it.
No, I don't think they do. I think you're initially right. And, bands nowadays don't come with the controversy that they used to.
That's true.
Like, who now would release a record with a giant picture of a close-up of an asshole on it and call it the Ian MacKaye 12-inch?
I'm not surprised that Poison Idea and Ian MacKaye might not have seen eye to eye on most things.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, when Pig Champion was asked about this record, these guys have been asked about this record a lot, but one thing I read in particular, so why would you do that and use Ian MacKaye's name? And his response was, because he's an asshole. I mean, who knows, like, how serious these guys are probably just, trying to get under people's skin. But he basically said, was quoted as saying, he's a figurehead for everything we're against.
I kind of see that, though, in a way, because,
right.
I mean, these guys, to me, seem like these, like, Luciferian figures, like, moving through the world, with very little regard for right or wrong. You know what I mean?
Or doing things to excess, such as drinking, drugging.
And I feel like Ian MacKaye, though I've never met the man, I'm just familiar with him through his work, has a very dogmatic viewpoint on the world, or did at one point, because I know that, people change, but, to write a song called Straight Edge,
right? I
think that might be diametrically opposite to what Poison Idea might have stood for.
That's safe to say.
Yeah. I have to say, too, I mean, I want to like Fugazi more than I do, actually. I'm talking about, once again, we're going off topic here, but we're talking, since, there's a peripheral reference here to Ian MacKaye, I'm going to take this as a cue to speak a little bit about Ian MacKaye. Like, I respect Ian MacKaye more than I think I like his music, with the exception of Minor Threat. I think Minor Threat is amazing. They're great. They're like one of my favorite all-time bands.
Sure, sure.
But and I feel like I just can't relate to it. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. I'm just saying, for me, Mike Hill as an individual, I don't really relate to most of Ian MacKaye's output.
Well, we agree on most things, but I disagree with you on this one. Okay. I'm a huge Fugazi fan. I think they're one of the best live bands I've ever seen. Did you ever get a chance to see them live?
Yeah, I saw them live once. And you know who opened for them? Sam Black Church.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Sam
cool.
Black Church are great. They're a great live band, too.
Yeah, and I mean, I had nothing but respect for Ian and the way he conducts everything. But with the Fugazi thing, I think they're a phenomenal band. But, they're a very political band in a lot of ways, and like they were able to do things like the whole $5 show thing, and not every band can do that.
No,
not every band could operate like that. I think it's awesome that he was in a position where he could operate like that.
Not sell merch,
right? Not sell merch. Demand the door is a certain price. Demand everything's all ages all the time. Not everyone has that power. So. As much as I respect him for that, it's hard for the common musician to operate that way.
Yeah, I know. If we didn't sell merch, I'd be starved to death.
Right. I think you could say that for 99 or 100% of bands that operate.
Yeah.
Today, getting off the topic, it's fine. That's what we do. Still talking about music, right? Yeah, I am a big Fugazi fan, but yes, it's like these two, entities could not be more different.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Pig Champion was also in that same little piece I was reading. He said maybe the third or fourth pressing should be called the Ray Capo 12-inch. So I think you get a point where he's going.
Yeah. There have been a group of bands, a whole slew of bands that have covered songs off of this record too. Some bands, like unlikely bands,
right,
such as By the Grace of God, they have a cover of Plastic Bomb. Machine Head has a cover of Allen's on Fire. We mentioned Pantera with their cover of The Badge from the Crow soundtrack. Pulling Teeth, have a cover of Allen's on Fire. Are you familiar with them, Pulling Teeth?
I think the Baltimore band?
Yeah, it's like one of the dudes from that band is actually in Integrity now.
Dom.
Yeah.
He used to run A389,
Yep.
I
He's
think,
in
right?
Integrity.
Okay, yeah.
Turbo Negro, Just to Get Away, one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so there's been a bunch of, their reach is long. And I know that they did a split 7-inch with Kill Your Idols from New York.
Oh,
Long
I
Island.
didn't know that.
Yeah, like that came out later, much later.
Okay.
And I know for a fact, since I know the band pretty well, that Kill Your Idols are huge Poison Idea fans. And you can tell by listening to them that they're influenced by it.
Right, I can see that.
And officially, I guess the band broke up in 1993. But then they restarted in 98, started doing shows again. And then Pig Champion, whose real name is Tom Roberts, passed away in January 31st, 2006, at the age of 47 years.
It's young.
Yeah, I mean, but once again, man, it's like, live by the sword, die by the sword. It's like,
right.
I'm not judging anybody, but it's like, you pick a certain libertine lifestyle to live, and you probably won't be around for very, very long. You probably have a life that is, in line with your lifestyle.
Right.
And once again, I'm not judging anyone for what their choices are, but it's if you don't take care of yourself, you end up not being around for very long.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's a choice you make. Obviously, I mean, what was the cause? Was it a heart attack?
What I've seen, there is undetermined natural causes. So it's probably something like that.
Yeah.
Like heart attack, liver failure, like I don't know, like something like that.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
As much as we both love this record and love this band, neither one of us have ever seen this band.
Nope, I never saw them play live. Not even in the later post '98 version of the bands.
No. I mean, I know they toured a lot. I feel like I don't remember them coming around.
I remember them playing at CB's, and I remember not going because I felt it was like a reunited band in some ways. And I had this, and for better or for worse, my thoughts on this, and I am a little hypocritical because there are some bands like Rorschach that I did see when they reunited, but I kind of felt like if you're a band, you're out there doing your thing, you got this legacy, and then you reform, and then you come out again, and I'm not really down with that. You know what I mean? And for right or wrong, I'm not saying this is right or wrong way to look at things. It's just my personal viewpoint on it. I think that's why I didn't go see Poison Idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, these guys did their thing. At the time, they hadn't put out that new record, I think.
Right. And
I was like, yeah, I don't know. This is just kind of like a money thing, maybe, And I just didn't want to be part of that kind of stuff, And that, once again, when CB's started closing, when they had their their closing, all these bands came out of the woodwork to reform, and I was like, man, this is like not really what I'm into at all.
Was it part of that whole thing?
I don't remember it being part of that, but I remember that was like the era of when CB's was closing, and there was like Leeway reunions, like all these bands were starting to get together again and play, and it was like, and then they just stayed together, and it just made me feel, I had a weird feeling about all that kind of stuff.
Right. I know, but Poison Idea did go on to make quite a few records.
Yeah.
After that,
and that's like why I probably should have seen him. Like I probably should have
Right.
checked him out during that period.
Right. I know they played when they released the last record on the one that came out on Southern Lord. I know they did a Boston show, and I didn't go. I mean, I didn't feel the same way, but I was just like, I feel like this just might not be good.
Going back to the original, point I was making about Feel the Darkness, it's like the Mike Hill of 1990 is a different Mike Hill than the version that is around today.
Right.
And definitely a different version of me that was around in 2007 or whatever, 2005.
Right.
And that era of my life, I feel like was kind of Poison Idea wasn't necessarily part of that, that vibration that I was living in at that particular point. And that's why I think I wasn't interested in seeing him play live.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't always relive those feelings,
Yeah. But Feel the Darkness, 1990, that was exactly what I needed to hear at exactly that time,
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of records like that. Like Black Flag hit me at exactly the right time of my life too.
Right.
And that's just kind of. You and I actually went to that Black Flag reunion, and I kind of wish we hadn't actually.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
And it was like we both went into that knowing what it was probably not going to be very good.
I don't think we had very high hopes going in. Well, they're coming back again. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's singing?
Mike Vallely.
Okay, so Mike V's still doing that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The rhythm section, I have no idea.
One of those guys died, right?
I think so.
I think
the bass player.
The bass player might have passed away too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I think so.
Damn.
I think so. Yeah, I noticed they just announced a tour. It looks like a lot of second, third markets.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get these reunions. Or sometimes you do know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Well, that's Feel the Darkness by Poison Idea. Another classic record in the Metal Matters pantheon of classic records.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Metal Matters, a Gimme Radio weekly podcast. Tune in next week and see what we have in store for you. The show is available on all streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, etc. Also, be sure to check out Gimme Radio, streaming on the web, iOS, or Android, for one of the best metal communities, exclusive merch, interviews with artists, and so much more. I'll catch you guys next week. Take care.
Just gotta run, just gotta go. No looking back, moving on the power. I never sang a love song, never owned a car. I never met a machine who drive me this far. Not gonna listen to a word used, leave it in the mud just to get away. Can't stand myself for another day, leave it in the mud just to get away to my job.
Very sort of unique, hardcore. Oh, fuck that. What am I going to say about these motherfuckers?
You want me to just do it?
Do you have something to say?
I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
Do we do all right with our...
Yeah. I mean, like, it's like when it's all said and done, it'll be about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
You like to keep them about 40 minutes, right?
Sometimes it's cool to be. It's like some just don't have much to say about it, man. And I don't want to drag it on.
Right.
I think like the last. We're about between 40 minutes and an hour.